I'm just trying to get my client some money. There's some nefarious things going on behind the scenes. Whether or not Nick provided the actual information in regards to his employer, whether or not he had a deal with the employer not to
Sir?
pay. We did not file a response. I was
Okay.
just retained. I
Okay.
did,
All
yeah.
right. All right. No problem. I just wanted to know. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we are here in the matter of Jameson versus Busuk, case number 23-06095 DM. Sir, this is your motion. What is going on with your income?
So actually changed jobs. I switched from another tree company that is
But
basically doing,
you're still doing tree work, correct?
yes, yes, sir.
Why did you switch the jobs?
The winter work slowed and it looked like he was going to go out of business, so I took up other opportunities.
And it's a little bit less pay, but not much less pay, correct?
Yeah, it's $3 less an hour.
Um, Ms. Myers, any input on this? I mean, I've always had problems with lawn services because they do go in and out of business, and sometimes if you see the handwriting on the wall, normally if somebody leaves their job through no fault of their own, or through fault of their own, I kind of hold them to the old income. The problem is this is not one of those jobs that is continuous or steady for the most part, at least in my experience. So
It's my understanding that he voluntarily,
I understand, yeah,
yeah,
voluntarily, but if he's got evidence that possibly he wasn't getting any work, that doesn't help.
no, that's not the case. Actually, he just moved on to a different job. The company
Right.
that he worked for is still in business. It's been in business for
Part 1 today, we are diving into a courtroom battle that instantly turns suspicious. Right out of the gate, attorneys are hinting at nefarious behavior, missing child support money, and possible games being played behind the scenes. The judge immediately notices the timing of the father's sudden job change while already buried in debt, and the tension starts building fast.
quite a while. So it was more an issue of he recently got called into court because he's 10 grand or whatever behind,
Right.
and now he all of a sudden has a
Well,
new job.
considering if you're saying that he was steady there and he's 10 grand in behind, my question would be this, because we take the money from the employer, not from the parties, which means if there's a steady income, why would there be an arrearage?
It's my understanding that there was an issue with the income withholding order, and
Okay.
my client did bring it to the attention, but just so the court also is aware, Mr. Jameson has been very vocal about the fact that my client would not get money. And there were some
Well,
discussions between him and the employer.
right. Okay.
And I haven't seen
Yeah.
an income withholding order at all, even go out
You,
to
you
it.
you won't. The income withholding orders go only to the employer because of the
Right. And
inform yeah, because of the information contained within them. It's kind
right.
of personal, and that's why the court never sees an income withholding order either, because
So,
we don't need it.
I'm,
This was just
I'm
recently entered. That's why I'm trying to. Well, actually, it's been almost 2 years, correct?
correct. 2023. When was your, yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's that.
2023. Well,
Yeah.
it was fall of 2023. Sir, how long did you work at that place?
I would say about 3 years. And in January, he told us that we were going to be laid off until March. And that's when I looked for another job, went through bidding.
Do you have that in writing?
Yeah, I can probably find a text from
Then I will need to see that.
yes, sir.
Is where the case starts getting messy. The judge begins digging into how someone with a supposedly steady job could somehow rack up over $10,000 in unpaid child support. The mother's attorney pushes hard, suggesting something doesn't add up, while the father tries defending his job switch with claims of layoffs and uncertainty.
And it's going to hinge on, because if he was told that they were going to be closing down for 3 months, that would give him no income, ma'am, and searching for another job would have been appropriate. But like I said, that's why my first question is, what's going on with your job?
Yes, sir.
So I expect you to get to me, and Ms. Myers, have you been on this case before?
I have, Your
Yeah,
Honor. I
you have.
represented,
So,
yeah.
sir, you have her contact information. I suggest you get her a copy of that text.
Will
We're
do.
going to set this for a settlement conference in the next 2 weeks to determine, that way I can look at it, Ms. Myers can look at it, we can sit down, and if there's a justification here, I'm willing to give some leeway. Because let's face it, in another 12 months, he could probably ask for a child support review one way or the other. But the idea is to make sure that we get that money flowing. So bottom line, sir, regardless, you need to contact the front of the court with your job change to inform them where to send the new income withholding order to, so you don't become more and more in arrears.
There,
If you-
and
Yeah,
this week we did put in a withholding.
okay. To your new
So
employer?
yes, sir. The first withholding came out this week.
Good. In that case, then the money should start flowing, Ms. Myers, and then we'll find out if it's appropriate to adjust. Because I also had a question as to, I believe she was held at zero income. Why was that? Is your client
Actually, I think
disabled?
she was imputed. She provides all the childcare, Your Honor, so
Okay.
that Mr. Jameson, it's the way that their marriage was set up as well, so that Mr. Jameson can work.
Right.
So he can work anytime he wants, which is why I was also going to bring up the fact that he works significant amount of overtime as well.
Understood.
So yeah, so there's no
That's
childcare.
why I'm questioning this. I'm not making this an automatic.
Right, I
No.
understand. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, she was held at zero income. That's
And
also
I think it's because if they
Because the financial side of this case just got complicated. The court starts breaking down how the child support was originally calculated, while the judge questions whether both sides actually benefited from the arrangement. Once overtime pay and zero income claims enter the conversation, you can feel the judge realizing this situation may be far more unbalanced than it first appeared.
the decision was either zero income and then we do something with childcare or we impute her. Because if she goes to work, obviously childcare is going to be much more expensive. They have 4 children, 4 young children.
understood, but looks like this was part of the agreement of the parties back then. Alrighty.
It was.
But I will look at this because neither party may like what's going to happen at the new review because they changed the guidelines again. So that it might not work for either party, and I'd rather not hurt either party either. But
There's
I
one
also
more
want to get it.
thing.
I also want to get it correct because let's face it. Like I said, when we find it incorrect, we find it imbalanced, and then nobody gets any money. It just winds up chasing tails, and that's not worth it. So, what's your question, Miss Myers?
One other thing, so we're gonna come before the court in September because my client is currently pregnant and due. So there would be a change in September, either way.
Oh, okay. So it may be that we have to look at it now because of his change, if it's an appropriate change, and we'll have to look at it again in September when there is another change. Okay. But her birth, if she's held at zero income, ain't gonna change anything. So unless you want her imputed and that income then offset by her new child, that's fine. But if she's at zero and stays at zero, birth of a new child won't change the mathematics here.
Right.
You have to have income to deduct from. And since the party set this up at her at zero, you don't have a change of circumstance from that one.
Yeah,
You could ask for it, but be careful again what you ask for.
Right. I'm just trying to get my client some money because there is such a
Well,
huge arrearage. I think there might actually be a warrant too that might be.
That's why I'm warning him, and that's why I'm going to look at
Mhm.
this a little bit more closely to make sure.
Part completely changes the energy in the courtroom. A pregnancy announcement suddenly introduces another future financial issue. But the real shock comes when accusations of possible employer collusion hit the table. The attorney openly hints that someone may have helped avoid wage withholding, and the judge responds with warnings about massive legal consequences.
More closely to make sure that
Thank
we get it right.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, that's what we find out. That happens if you set child support incorrectly. Now, again, why there's been a kind of continuous employer up till a couple months ago, $10,000 should not have happened that easily. Is it that there was a back order to it too? No? Okay, then
He just wasn't paying, and
again,
again,
he doesn't pay. Income withholding
Right.
orders pay. That's
I
why, and that's why I
understand.
asked him. He's been employed there since before the inception of this. There should have never been an arrears, so something happened with a paperwork screw up somewhere.
I understand, but I think, again, I think there's some nefarious things going on behind the scenes. Whether or not Nick provided the actual information in regards to his employer, whether or not he had a deal with the employer not to pay. And my client
Well,
has been on top of it,
the employer would not like that because there is case law out of Kent
Right.
County where they took an employer to task. The employer
Yep.
not only had to regurgitate all the funds, the employer had to pay fines, penalties, and it was not.
Right,
It was Fifth Third, and it was not pretty.
right.
We're talking into the millions.
Right. And my client did contact her worker to try and sort
Okay.
that out. It's just never been sorted out.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can sort it out better this time. And
Perfect.
hopefully we've
Thank
got an
you.
income. Well, hopefully we'll know if there's an income withholding order in place, and then she's getting her money from the new employer. And this
There's
job
also supposed to be.
this job, Mr. Jameson, is continuous now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Myers?
There was supposed to be, last time the parties were in court only a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, February, 2 months
Okay.
now. Mr. Jameson had indicated that he had filed his tax return, so had told the court at that time on the show cause that there would be money forthcoming in that regard. It's my understanding that he's withholding filing his return.
Well, that's between him and the federal government. That also has consequences and penalties. So, yeah, normally if there's an arrearage, if it's my understanding, the IRS sends out the letters in August to prepare for the end of the year, and then they set up the confiscation of any type of tax return. So we'll see what happens.
Can I ask?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Mr. Jamerson.
So I had texted her telling her that I had filed my taxes, which I did. And then she told me that she had claimed the other two, which I don't really know how taxes work. So I was assuming that she got the money for the two per the court agreement.
I don't know.
So, and the only reason
If you're following, that doesn't go against your child support. That's her taxes, just as your taxes are your taxes. Okay. All right. So we'll see each other again shortly. My clerk will be contacting you to set up a short, quick, and I suggest you get that any type of paperwork to Ms. Myers and myself so that we may have it to review for the settlement conference, sir. All right. Good luck, everybody.
Because the courtroom closes with even more confusion surrounding taxes, missing payments, and unanswered questions. The father attempts to explain what happened with his tax return, but the judge quickly reminds everyone that unpaid child support has serious consequences. And with another hearing now coming, this case feels far from over. If you enjoyed this courtroom breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.